Oh, thank you. Thank you, guys. So we're going deeper on this. It's nice to talk to a couple of you that are coming in. I don't have it all figured out, but my organizations have earned the business of over 2,000 clients over time. And what I'm about to present is the pattern that we've learned as to what's happening. And it's just a simple acronym, IST. Identify your metrics, set the targets, and then forecast this. And what's really important is the cultural component that you go through all this. So I'm going to put it in a story. A mentor of mine told me this story several years ago about the French cathedral builder. In the 14th century medieval France, there was a cathedral builder hustling down the dirt road. And he passed three guys stacking bricks. He said to the first one, "What are you doing?" The person said, "Oh, I'm stacking bricks." He said, "Okay." Passed the second one, "What are you doing?" "I'm stacking bricks to build a wall." "Okay." Passed to the third one, "What are you doing?" "I'm stacking bricks to build a wall in order to build a cathedral one day." You fast forward in the future, first person's dead, second person's barely scraping by. Merrily, can you take a guess? What's the third person doing? Building cathedrals. And so there's processes the metrics that you want to build that you talk to the team and manage the team against is how you're building stacking the bricks. Well, how you talk to the board is what are the real key metrics that you're doing with building the cathedral. And so there's something we talk about, and I built this with one of the investment banks, Key Bank, is what's the small 1, 2, or 3 number of meaningful business dynamics that truly capture where the value's coming from in the business model from the customers. And it's always different and unique, but it's based upon who your customers are and then the types and size of contracts that you've got and where you're at in your stage of funding and then the amount of competition that you have in order to go through all of it. And there's some core metrics to truly manage against. And if anybody hasn't done it already, Ben Murray, stand up, Ben. Ben Murray, the SaaS CFO, merrily happy Ben Murray customer, goes really deep on understanding what these metrics are. But these are the key ones that are out there. And we built something with one of our former investors called Bessemer Venture Partners, arguably one of the top 5 investors in the world, to go deep on what each of these are, and then how you benchmark yourself against what they are. The committed reoccurring revenue, what's your growth rate? And anybody who wants the deck, just add me on LinkedIn. David Appel, and I'm very happy to send you the deck and talk about the deck afterwards. But there's some benchmarks on what good, better, best. What's your CAC payback look like? Now I want us to go one step further on CAC payback. Be intellectually honest with yourself on CAC payback. Because people can play all kinds of games on is this included, is that not included? Because the real point on building what your metrics are is to be aligned as an executive team. Take the time to understand what are those top 3 metrics that you have that are really key and have everybody be involved on them. Because what I've seen happen so many times is it devolves into a little bit of petty politics on people using the metrics to position against one another, but that completely defeats the point of being at an early stage startup that's trying to figure out where you're at in the market. And so as you're designing what these are, there's a lot of variability in what happens on who's your type of customer, how long's the contract, are you doing long-term contracts or transactional, are you a land and expand, or are you just high volume transactional that comes in here? And as you come together as a leadership team in order to calculate all of them, there's so many ways to pull these together. I don't know if you can see this in the back, but this is how 12 IPOs decided they're going to calculate churn. And the one I always point at is Box. And they've got implied ACV at the start of a term divided by implied ACV at the end of the term. And to Box at the IPO, implied ACV was all customers with an ACV greater than $5,000 because they're trying to stay out of the small volume customers that were churning, and they didn't want Wall Street evaluating them against it. And the point that I'm making here is there's so much variety in how you can choose to calculate these. And the importance is to know what those small number of metrics are and to be aligned as an executive team, because the whole point of this is how are you communicating with your board. The uniqueness of how you go about doing it, I'm very happy to talk about one-on-one. I do this constantly
with our customers and the chair people of the audit committee on the board and whatnot. But the whole point is to know what these are and be on the same page and calculate them against what the core metrics are. The other one is to tell your story with the metrics against cohorts. Because another mentor of mine has a funny quote: if you're not embarrassed at who you were 12 months ago, you haven't grown enough. And the same thing's true as a startup. You're not embarrassed at what you thought your customer was and how you're supporting them 12 months ago, you haven't grown enough as a startup. Because what the board's also looking for is you break down your cohorts on the customers against the metrics, how they came into you in order to be successful. And you want to be, again, intellectually honest about this as a leadership team with pulling it together. And to go deep on the operations on this for a second, is the more you can tag the transactions as they come in with what are the dimensions that you're going to attribute everything against. So every order that comes in, every customer that comes in, every item that you design, all the dimensions are immediately on all those transactions. So as you want to report against it, boom, it's there. And so our first step was, how are you building your cathedral with what the core metrics are? And I just want to ask everybody, since we've got a small crowd, if this will work, if you don't know the person you're sitting next to or in a row, introduce yourself for a quick second. Introduce yourself to say, and to meet somebody and ask, how well do you know what your metrics are? How aligned are you? If there's something to talk about, great. Marilee, meet somebody. Guy in the back row, come on up, meet somebody. And just introduce yourself. How well do you know the metrics? I don't know if you guys want to connect. I don't want to create it but force it, but we're all here to network and create a greater community of how people are coming together. And if you're not aligned as an executive team on what these are, my coaching to you is get aligned on what these are. So we move into the next thing and how you set your targets in order to pull this together. And this is something we've built over time with investors that goes through funding stages as you get started. But because all financial capital is ultimately gated capital. They're looking for you to prove that you've done what you need to do at the stage and you're putting the foundation in place for what they're looking for at the next stage. And most people don't realize the pattern about what it is, that you can be proactive in order to engage your investors and how it's coming together. But at seed, you're trying to get product market fit with 10 happy customers that'll give you feedback, that'll make the product better, they'll become your evangelists, they'll be the linchpin of your marketing. Series A, prove you can sell it. Is easily defined as hitting the growth rate that you got. And then prove that you can keep those customers and have them buy from you a second and third time. And after that, prove you can make it predictable, profitable, and repeatable. You figured out the product, how to sell it, keep it, and then how do you bring people in? And then later, take a capital-efficient product and machine and move it to adjacent markets and geographies. So at each stage of funding, the gated capital is asking you to prove this and then prove the next one. And I want to go deeper on each of those three major stages that happen. Who here is early stage? Under 5 million. Okay. Who here is 5 to 25 million? Who here is north of 25 million? Okay. Now Maxio's crushing it. Good job. Good to have you here. Say hi to Randy. And then roles. Who here is in sales and marketing? Who here is a founder? Great presentation, by the way. That's like the third, fourth time I've seen you present. Every time it's great, so great job. Who here is in finance? Okay, thank you. Of course, the front row sitters are the finance folks. They come on in. And so what the board's looking for in the early stage is how well have you nailed the value proposition, showing how you're getting the growth rate? How much do you understand the profile, and then turning that into the repeatable sales motion, which there's a lot of sessions here about how you build a repeatable sales motion. Would you remind me your first name again? Kevin. If you didn't see Kevin's presentation or talk to Kevin, he's very good at helping you build a repeatable model. And then show you can get the demonstrated customer value that you can start to hone in and have a consistent price on what the products are that you're doing. And there's some measures that they're looking for is, are you hitting this amount of revenue and this amount of revenue per employee in order to come on board? So in Series B, now they're looking for, has anybody here read Jeffrey Moore, Crossing the Chasm? Okay, all right, half of you, right? Trying to get started. You're in now in the bowling alley. Who's going to win? Who's going to win the market? And so that get primarily defined by win rate, and then the repeatability and the go-to-market, and then starting to show you can have some predictability and understanding where your customers are coming from and why, then how they're converting. And what they're looking for there, again, is those types of metrics. Are you getting that kind of money, that kind of employees, that kind of efficiency, and how well you're using the capital in the market? And then the later stage, which again we're trying to make all this predictable and profitable, is how consistently can you do the growth rate, and then how fast after you drop a rep into the model will you get good yield out of the rep. There's nuance to how it depends, but it's against what your major business fundamentals are. And then all the metrics that we've got that Ben can teach you about, how well you're hitting all of those. And similarly here, they're looking for this type of numbers. And so the point of these first two sections is define your measure, but then know how the gated capital is going to evaluate how you look against what everybody else is, unique to your model. And I want to keep stressing what's critical is that those of you on the leadership team are all aligned on this. And if anybody's not aligned, work really hard to get aligned. Because it's hard to get along with everybody all the time. But it's like a marriage. If the top 5, 7 folks in the company aren't all on the same page on what success looks like, how we're going to measure it, it's really hard to scale it all up. So this was, again, in your own self-assessment. Where do you think you're strong on whatever stage of gated capital you're looking at, and where do you think you're concerned privately to yourself that you think you should spend some more time in order to go deeper, in order to pull that together? The last thing is on forecasting. On the boards that I'm on, this is what we ask the executive team to think about. What's the 60-40 plan? This is the plan you want to be committing to the board, that when you have the company meetings, every month we stand on. When I ran direct sales at Bill.com and we had to have the company meeting, we were very clear on everybody. And this is, again, against the 3 measures that are most critical to the company. Where do you stand so that everybody sees where they fit in order to have it all come together? But then the job starts to get a little fun. Stretch goals. 30% chance of hitting it. This is like the rally target, starting to shoot for the stars on something. I'm winning a space. I'm being a competitor. All tied back to the measures that most define what the company is. And then I love these. Your 1090. If I just asked you to think about it, there's just a few people in the company that you know can get the job done, that just are special and are unique and everybody follows. Help them to dream big, but don't penalize them for things going wrong. Like, for instance, as we wanted a Big Four relationship, and we put part of the team on, how do we get a Big Four relationship? It took 2 years. And then, hey, Adam, it took 2 years, and then have it come together. And we just announced with PwC last year, and it's shooting for the stars and the art of the possible, because you need to do that. But then everybody else follows your ringers and your ballers that are building up the business. And this is just a classic model on a high volume model and things to track against, and visitors, paying customers, MRR and CAC, just the classic measures. But you want to have everything measurable. And I spend so much time on this is on the different forecast models. Everything that's based on historical data doesn't work anymore. The rules are completely changed. And so you got to put a lot of multivariable analysis in all this. I'm going to show you an example. You can't do it in a spreadsheet, by the way. I don't care what tool you buy, but you got to buy a tool in order to do it. And it's all back to how this presentation builds, by knowing the key measures of what defines success in the company, and then tracking against those. That's how you can test all that. And I want to say, the thing is most people react to the processes that you need to mature as the company goes, one at a time, but it leaves you a big data later mess, because data is the new oil, but the more it's all over the place, it just leaves you with more integrations, which are bad, and reconciliations, which are bad. And the more you can put everything into one platform where everybody's on the same page, you get something like this. This is the eye candy we show in every presentation and every demo, that when you put all that infrastructure in place, you as an executive team can know where you stand on a daily basis and communicate it across all the different domains in the company in order to pull it together. And then you can manage and forecast your renewals. And then you can track your different cohorts, because all the transactions are in place or have to come together. And then then you can do a lot of multivariable analysis with testing different assumptions on the business is how you're going to forecast it out and make it all come together. And nothing pulls things together than the story. This is our customer of the year, an amazing fintech firm called Springbrook out of Indianapolis. And they put the time in to understand two different parts of the segments that they have with building great billing scenarios and then improve churn 7%. And when you improve churn 7%, that meant millions of dollars of post-money valuation for them. And then their ability to forecast, where they set a big 1090 out there. They found some operational inefficiency in their business, and their engineering department knew ahead of time they could have staff in order to hire for it, and did that, improved gross margin 8%, that got them over the rule of 40, which is really critical to what the board wanted to see. So in this, I wanted to cover IST, identifying the targets, being clear as a leadership team what those are, setting the targets and how you're going to manage against them, and then tracking it against the forecast that you got. I want to wrap up on this. For everybody who's in finance or has a finance team, everybody heard about HubSpot and the HubSpot Academy? We're building the equivalent of a HubSpot Academy for finance leaders called the Modern SaaS Finance Academy. It's free. You just simply go to sageu.com/modern SaaS finance. It's perfect. The courses and tracks for people in CFOs, controllers, heads of finance, FP&A, RevOps in order to come in. Allison, how am I doing on time? Perfect. We are wrapping it up. Thank you, everybody, for coming to the presentation. My name is David Appel. Feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to send the presentation. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Have a great day.